Well, good afternoon, good evening, folks, depending where you're at in Canada. I wanted to do this video on the term woke. American Webster versus Oxford. British versus English definitions. History of the word woke. Where it really comes from, its first experience in the world and how it came to be. How it's used today. How it's referenced for a black African American movement in what would be seemingly a new U.S. revolution. Folks, that's not the history of woke. Woke, in reality, goes all the way back to the first and only American Revolution, 1783, and the term woke with the British Empire and would-be American separatists that went on to free America from British rule. The idea of a foreign power enslaving entire peoples, imposing their will. It was the real first revolution leading to self-determination, independence from a world ruled by the British Empire. British Empire would go on to be much stronger than the United States of America, as would the entire history of all crown colonials. There are 7 in history, 7 nations. Most of the world today, most of the world is not a federalism. Not even Canada's limited federalism. Most of the world is not that. Most of the world is centralized governments, either absolutely through monarchies or unitary systems of governance. What does that mean? Well, I can tell you, folks, America, Russia, and several others, only a handful in this world today, have true federalisms. Now, multi-party systems are a whole nother matter, but folks, this is the idea of trying to build a big country, a big UN state, and having many, many sub-regions, giving a division of powers. Most successful countries in the world, the most powerful countries in the world, use this system. Now, the European Union claims, as UN states in the European Union, they are much similar. But international law, regional legal systems, and having regional division of powers don't exist in any of those states. They don't. They're all centralized governments, full-on unitary systems. Britain works the same way. Why they're strong is because of colonialism and holding colonial jewels around the world. They give out their crown. They give it to many countries, many republics even, at least constitutionally in their laws, and they say that these countries can operate in their full autocratic centralized powers and have the crown as long as they give an international crown obedience to that British system. That's how the royal family operates. They're not the only ones. They're just the most powerful in the world today. We see America grappling with this each and every day, opposite of what its constitution states. There's an executive power of presidency, and lately we've been seeing more and more presidents try to gravitate to that executive power, taking power away from the people, diminishing the American Constitution. They've even gone so far as now to try and get rid of the only fully independent judiciary in the world, the best example of such. That was in 1889, folks. In fact, it's September 24th is the anniversary of the Supreme Court of the United States of America, the first independent judiciary, not bound to the overlords of the world, so to speak, is what we see in many dictatorials, many monarchies, and many unitary systems. You can still get republics, but some of these independent republics have kept all the crown power and have, in fact, to keep that crown power, have joined the Commonwealth. They have done that. There are 56 states, 3 of which are wrestling with it right now. Are they going to remain? They want their crown powers that they've constituted in the name of that royal family. They will, and they do. And this is a sad reality that a lot of academics don't look at. Again, folks, go look at your books of history, find the word woke. You will find it was the American patriot who defines woke. And in fact, post-American independence, things like rape came to being. Many things were done by America, and people don't realize that. America's led the world for a large margin as the new world. They make changes all the time. They make advancements for all of humanity. We have the United Nations Security Council, folks. What is that? I take a seat on being a world-renowned expert. Right now, I am battling with Dr. Giuseppe Martesino and one Sergei Dabrowski, who are both put into this video. I'm going to take this video, I'm going to put it on their Twitter accounts, as right now, Russia versus Spain, and what's happening with the 4 obelisks. Folks, there's one thing I did in this world today, in world academia, that I'm known for. I brought the legal path to independence. I didn't just do it for the province of Alberta in Canada. I built that system and presented it to the whole world. It was taken by Britain. I've had many of the greatest legal minds throughout the world contact me over it. It's been growing for me. I did a complete tour of most of the highest academic legal institutions in the world today. I've been to Harvard, Oxford, Yale, Princeton. We can go on and on to so many you've never probably even heard of. I have African universities, African doctorates of law. This goes throughout the USA. I was blessed that Mark Seidel, the writer, publicist, the academic legal mind in the United States, sat under 3 previous presidents, is the world-renowned expert on China for the United States of America. He flew out to Edmonton, Alberta to meet me. This was done almost 4 years ago now. It's on my Facebook. We met, we talked. He's writing a book. I guess I will be in those works. He's not the only one, folks. And in that tour, I've met the greatest legal minds in the world, one of which is the Spanish academic writer and absolute professor of law, expert in absolute. As the creator of the legal path to independence in the country of Canada, not just the country of Canada, any UN General Assembly state, any country can go about this. Any country can do the legal path to independence. Who has done it? Oh, I thought I lost everybody. I hate that. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder. But folks, the reality is this. Anybody can go through the legal path to independence. I've provided multiple world staged precedents sponsored by, what I always say, the United Nations Permanent Security Council members. Who are they again? Those are the victorious 5 allies of World War II. That is Russia, the United States, the United Kingdom, France, and China. 5 countries in this world that if your region who was looking for independence or recognition into another state, you would have to win all 5 of those nations, or you would have to join one of those 5 member nations. Your region would have to do that and be sponsored by one of those 5 countries. Any other country in the world is not legally allowed to annex your territory or bring you into their country or do any other effect. And folks, if you think it isn't true in precedent, this is for my 2 colleagues tagged here, both one from Spain, world-class, renowned expert, one from the Russian Federation, world-renowned expert. He speaks 15 languages. He carries on in English just as well as he does in Russian and many other languages. He's also a doctorate of physics. He's a master of many talents, not a minimalist at all. And I'm going to tell you, folks, they both talk about it. Now, Russia is taking the 4 oblasts if they pass their referendums. Are they done in precedent law internationally? No, they are not. But Russia doesn't have to. And folks, Neither does UK, neither does France, neither does China, and neither does the United States of America. The rest of us must follow precedent, the legal path to independence, one I provided for the province of Alberta or any other region in the world. There's a system to get independence that you do legally. You want to see in precedent that happening? The last example, legally done, recognized by all permanent five members, is South Sudan. Sudan was cut in half, and there is a South Sudan, 2004. The referendum was done all over the world, voted by all refugees from the Sudanese communities of that region of South Sudan that is a nation today. It was administered by the UNSCP5. It was completed around the entire world for all refugees of the community. It was done. It was a referendum. The vote was done, and it was sponsored by the P5, signed, sealed, certified. If you don't do that, Catalan, Spain, where you declare independence without that referendum sponsored by the five, you will be uprooted, you can be imprisoned, you can be executed, you can be exiled. They can do anything that the nation that doesn't like what you're doing wants to do. Or if one of any of the P5 members steps in and shuts your referendum down, you're screwed, meaning you have to win the five. This is the platform. That's what has to be done. Now, Ukraine, Russia, what has happened? What's happening on the 27th? They're doing a referendum as a UNSCP5 member, sponsoring those regions in Ukraine to join Russia. Those rules I outlined for the legal path to independence doesn't apply because, one, it's Russia, a P5 member. And you want to see precedent law on that? I bring you Falklands. I bring you Sierra Leone. 2 British military campaigns to take Falkland Islands from Argentina, and in Africa, Sierra Leone from that party, to take it away via the British government. Military operation, the same UNSCP-5 style military operation as was completed by Russia in Ukraine. What changes now, folks, like what Britain did in the Falklands, what Britain did in Sierra Leone, is that Russia's now saying, we will take those 4 obelisks that didn't have a worldwide referendum, didn't ask any of the refugees, we did our military intervention. Those that remain get to vote, which are mostly Russian-speaking, going to be wanting to go to Russia, and they will, because the Ukrainian refugees have already fled. Countries like Poland and everywhere else, they're not going to administer a referendum to allow those who fled to vote. They're only going to allow the remaining Russian-speaking majority population to vote. Would they have wanted either way? I don't know. Probably, maybe not, some of them. The reality is, Russia's a UNSCP-5 member. In precedent law, according to the UN Charter, those 5 countries do not have to follow any legal path to anything or follow any precedent law because they create precedent law individually or unanimously together. If you're a UN state outside of a P5 member, you must win all 5. If you're a P5 member, you get to do whatever you want. And if you don't believe me, Britain did it. Sierra Leone and Falklands, Argentina. Go look at that. If you haven't read it, that's reality. That's the same thing, absolutely, Russia has done in Ukraine, in those territories, all on the eastern side of Ukraine, down to the sea. Russia's taking it. And on the 27th, if those referendums are passed, Russia, the UNSCP-5 member, is going to officially state to the entire world that those 4 regions are now part of another 85 regions that make up the Russian Federation, and that anyone who fires a gun or comes in to try and take those territories back will be declaring war against Russia. Do you think that by the 27th, that any other nations are going to be attacking Russia to declare World War III? Do you think the United States of America is going to declare World War III and dissolve the UNSCP-5 and go to war directly with Russia? Possibly then China too, for Ukraine? Do you think? Has Joe Biden done anything other than sponsor Zelensky? Has he done any other official military action to promote anything more? The answer is no. Won't even violate airspace. Do you think that when Russia moves the territory boundaries, whether USA likes it or not, equal P5 powers from World War II, if Russia uses its power to create international law and redesigns the Russian Federation boundaries, do you think USA is going to cross it? Does USA want to dissolve the UNSCP-5 and go to war with Russia and maybe possibly then China? Do you think China's going to sit back and say, you sponsored our one China policy, now if you violate Russia in this scenario, then you will probably violate Taiwan, and you will probably do to us like the China virus, like you're doing with the Russian virus. Folks, do your reading, be diligent. I've tagged a Russian expert, credible, verifiable, genius expert. I'm probably the only Canadian in Canada that has one. I'm not even sure that there is that much in with American Russia at this point in time. I'm probably one of the only people to have access to that kind of Russian intellect. I'm probably the only one. Giuseppe is unbelievable, highly intelligent. I make this video for him to explain that this is the difference, and these are precedents I bring forward, all for credible, real precedents that give credence to Russia redesigning those boundaries should they win their referendums, whether we like it or not. Are those referendums legal? Not in the other 188 UN states. It couldn't be made legal in Canada. Unless Alberta was going to leave and USA would sponsor joining America, but Alberta couldn't break the law the same way, in the same manner as what's happened with Russia and Ukraine, unless a P5 member sponsored them. And USA is likely not to do that, regardless of what people will tell you. They won't do that. You have to follow the legal path unless you're in with a UNSCP-5 member or all 5 UNSCP-5 members sponsor you. That hasn't happened for a whole bunch of nations around the world. There are actually, folks, there are actually more than 200 nations in the world. I've read over 208 constitutions, but there's only 193 nations in the world today. Those who don't follow international law don't get nation status, don't get recognized. Do you think the 4 obelisks care if they go from unitary Ukraine into absolutely the Russian Federation, where the Russian Federation is going to give them regional constitutionalism, give them the division of powers underneath the federal government, which is what they wanted and had all along until 2014. This is what the Russian-speaking majorities are having a problem with. This is what should come natural to American governments looking at this situation. How could you not see it? How could a Republican like Bush not see it back in 1993? Either 1, he didn't care, or 2, it was more about hurting Russia than it was real democracy. Because USA is a federalism. The 50 states all have their division of powers, and they have their own separate constitutions codified in their individual states. It's like 50 little republics in the United States of America, the United 50 small republics. They call them states. They're not UN states. They encompass what is the United States of America, the UN state, but they're outside of any other controls internationally. Whereas European Union, they're all UN states inside an international system dictated by one King Charles. See the problem here? France was the same way. They were a colonial too. That's the P5 member holding the EU together today. Britain left, England left the EU. They're the United Kingdom, 5 nations, all UN states. But there are no regional divisions, none whatsoever, no regional powers for any of the regions inside all of the European Union, besides Switzerland. Everybody else is in a centralized government, dictated on an international level. The New World Order, folks, it's always been there. It's called the Old World Order. World War II was a fight to destroy the Old World Order. This New World Order everybody talks about may be new post-1945, but before 1945, I know my ancestors left Europe because they worked on a baron's land. They didn't own nothing. They barely had anything. They came on a boat with nothing. Nothing. Because they came from nothing on the promise of something better, never to be ruled again. To have property, they were giving away land. You could work your own land. You could build your own new life. You didn't have to be a slave on the master's plantation. Sound familiar? Look at Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone was the British Empire taking former slaves from all of its colonial assets and transferring to Sierra Leone in Africa. None of those people originated there. That was a drop-off center for freed slaves to work for the British Empire. Look at the diamonds and the wealth taken from Sierra Leone by the royal family. Moving people around. Does that sound familiar? Inuit and Métis, does that sound familiar? Having your peoples picked up and moved all over the Arctic? Does that sound familiar? Because that's what Canada did too. Where did they get the idea for that? Oh yeah. Or was it vice versa? Oh yeah, it's hard to tell. Really hard to tell, isn't it? History's sick, gross, and if we're all not careful, and if we all don't become woke, like the American patriot in 1783, the real first woke that led to the American Revolution, where they toppled statues and threw lords, barons, kings, and highnesses in the Boston River. That's the truth. Hanging people by the neck, black and whites doing this alike. If you forget history, or you allow people to rewrite history the way you want it to be, or you believe it to be because it's an institutionalization you got, I don't know what to tell y'all. This video is huge. It's important. A lot of people wanted to hear all these things put together, and I've done that. I'm going to put it on Twitter for the 2 academics I named in it. And I can promise you this, folks. Come Tuesday, September 27th, if Russia ratifies those referendums, it's a declaration of war for anybody to fire or invade or come on those territories. And Russia's going to respond with heavy firepower. All the propaganda you've ever heard, all through this Western narrative, largely led by the British Empire, is just that. Russia is not a punk, not a joke, not a wimp, not to be trifled with. They're one of the most powerful military nations in the world. They're the nation of science, whether you like that or not. I'm just letting you know. They have hypersonic missiles not even developed in the United States of America. The U.S. is likely not able to defend against that. Toe-to-toe, if Russia and USA go at it, minus nuclear retaliation or usage, they could pound each other into the ground, and there's not really much anyone can do about it. But the devastation would be sizable. The devastation to Ukraine post the 27th will be sizable. They'll start hitting them hard, extremely hard. It's been a military operation, not trying to hurt anyone, and many casualties, like all wars, happen, and that's what's happened, both sides. But now Russia's saying, we did our 4 areas we wanted. They're done. The heavy Russian speakers all the way to Crimea, all the way up to Russia. any more post that day after those successful referendums, whether you like them or not. Because this is also for all experts and people in general. Law is only law if you can enforce it. That is real history. That is real reality. We see it right here in Canada. People, I'm going to go arrest police. How well did that work out for you? I'm going to charge police. I'm going to sue. I'm going to do this. How well did that work out for any of you? Just like talking trash about Russia and forcing Russia to do anything. Saying something is one way, and being able to enforce that are two different things. And no legal expert anywhere in any nation with any kind of expertise, i.e. a doctorate of law, any nation in the world is going to tell you that law is law when you can't enforce it. Because if you can't enforce it, it's not law. And I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to realize that. Russia can enforce, and they will enforce come Tuesday. Russians don't make idle threats. It will be a declaration of war on Ukraine's part, whether we all like that or not. And how far are you willing to go? Are you going to go fight a war for Justin Trudeau against an enemy you think you can beat, that can fire a nuclear missile at Mach 20 and blast your eastern seaboard, knock out all our nuclear plants, probably within less than an hour? If they wanted to, if they were going to, they would have done it already. I don't think they're going to. But the buck stops somewhere. And USA has never crossed that line. Not in all these 7 months. You all know it's true. Everything I've said has come to be. People still try to argue with me about it. But the reality is, the tail's in the tape. British propaganda media keeps saying Russia's weak, Russia's falling apart. There's thousands of protesters. Folks, there's always protesters in Canada, no matter who's in power, over all kinds of things. Couple hundred, couple thousand is nothing, especially in a country like Russia of 162 million people. You think 1,000 protesters in a population of 162 million matters? Come on. Doesn't take a lot to figure out, folks. Small fringe minority, not going to change anything. I don't say things because it's how I feel or I think it's right or this is great and wonderful. I always tell people the world as it really is, law as it really is, international law as it really is. That's all I do. I read. I have a multitude of world-class experts, the best of the best. I read everything they do. I've made a few minor contributions, a small light in a massive tree of lights. But the reality is, on this, I am 100% correct, and you're not going to get that out of anybody. You're not. You're going to get a diluted, polluted, crown version of reality, an institutionalized view. We've been watching so much propaganda. Why has the States not invaded Russia then? If this was going to happen, why didn't they do it in the last 7 months? Why is Russia now hosting referendums in these 4 oblasts? Because they hold them all. They finished their campaign. Now they're redrawing their maps, and whether the world likes that or not, and then it's going to be you're declaring war against Russia. And in real war, they start to use heavy-duty firepower to end it. And they will. They could have in all these 7 months. They didn't. They did lose soldiers. They did lose equipment. But now it's going to be the major war starting should Ukraine continue forward. That's reality. You haven't seen nothing yet. That was a military intervention, just like the Falklands, the British Empire, i.e. just a few years ago, United Kingdom. Sierra Leone, United Kingdom. Go look at the history of those 2 areas. Argentina tried to take it back. Britain said, no, that's our jewel of colonialism. Military operation by force. World didn't say a word. Why? Because you don't get it on the media. Why? Because it's British-controlled media. European-controlled media. Western narrative. Democrats love this. Who's the real racists? The woke patriot from 1783 will tell you it's the British. Where are those Americans today? Your Constitution says you're there, you're all there. Where are those people today? You can see the pollution of the executive, the pollution of the Democrats clearly. You're seeing an infection in the Republican Party. You're seeing it in a lot of supposed Republicans. It's a fight. It's an ugly fight. A fight I'm going to continue to do. Thanks, everybody. That's my video. Share, share, share. Get it out there. Massive knowledge. Good night.